Hey everyone, and a huge warm welcome back to the channel. Seriously, wherever you are in the world right now, I'm sending you my very best wishes. I truly hope you're feeling healthy, energized, and ready to dive into something important today. Take care of yourselves out there. Okay, so we often hear scary headlines about ecosystems failing or collapsing. Maybe about a forest dying off, a coral reef turning white, or a lake becoming a dead zone. It sounds terrifying, and honestly, it is a huge problem. But what does it actually mean when we say an ecosystem collapses? What really happens? And why should it matter to us, sitting here in our homes? That's what we're going to unpack today. We'll break it down step by step, using simple ideas and real-world examples, so you can understand this critical process that's happening more and more around our planet. So, first things first, let's picture an ecosystem. Think of it like a super complex, incredibly busy city. It's not just a random collection of plants and animals, it's a whole community where everyone has a job, everyone depends on someone else, and everything is connected by invisible threads. You've got the producers, the green plants and algae that make food from sunlight, like the power plants and farms supplying the city. Then you've got the consumers, the animals that eat the plants, herbivores, like the city's workers getting their groceries, and the animals that eat those animals, carnivores, like specialized shops or services. You've also got the essential cleanup crew, the decomposers like fungi and bacteria, breaking down dead stuff and waste, recycling nutrients back into the soil, like the sanitation department keeping things running smoothly. All of this operates within a specific environment: the soil, water, air, sunlight, and climate, the city's infrastructure and weather patterns. An ecosystem collapses when this whole interconnected system fundamentally breaks down and stops functioning the way it should. It's not just a few shops closing. It's like the entire city plunging into chaos, where basic services fail, people flee, and the whole structure crumbles. The web of life unravels. How does this collapse actually start? It usually begins with severe stress, like multiple punches hitting the ecosystem all at once or one massive knockout blow. Imagine that city facing a devastating hurricane, followed by a major economic crash, and then a disease outbreak. One big stressor might be habitat loss and fragmentation. This is like bulldozing huge chunks of the city and putting up giant walls. If you cut down a vast forest for farmland or development, you're not just removing trees, you're destroying homes, hunting grounds, migration routes, and breeding sites for countless creatures. Animals get squeezed into smaller and smaller patches, isolated from each other. Predators might not find enough prey. Plants might not get pollinated because the insects that carried pollen are gone. The connections start snapping. Another major stressor is overexploitation. This is like stripping the city bare, fishing out all the fish in the lake, hunting key animals to extinction, or logging trees faster than they can grow back. You remove crucial players. For example, if you wipe out all the big predators in a forest, like wolves or lions, the plant-eating animals they used to hunt, like deer or antelope, can explode in number. Too many hungry herbivores then devour all the young trees and shrubs, preventing the forest from regenerating. The whole structure changes. Then there's pollution. Think of it as poisoning the city's air and water supply. Toxic chemicals from factories, farms, or cities can flow into rivers and lakes, suffocating fish and insects. Pesticides meant to kill crop pests can also wipe out bees, butterflies, and other vital pollinators. Plastics choke marine life. Air pollution can weaken trees and plants. This poison disrupts the delicate chemical balances organisms need to survive and reproduce. Climate change is like the city getting hit by increasingly wild and unpredictable weather extremes it was never built to handle. Rising temperatures can push species beyond their heat tolerance, Corals bleach and die when water gets too warm. Changing rainfall patterns can turn lush areas into deserts or flood others excessively. Seasons shift, messing up delicate timings, like flowers blooming before the pollinators that rely on them emerge. Species adapted to specific climate zones might find their entire habitat becoming uninhabitable, with nowhere else to go. Finally, invasive species are like hostile gangs or invasive pests suddenly taking over parts of the city, outcompeting the locals. A new plant or animal, introduced accidentally or deliberately, might have no natural predators in its new home. It can spread uncontrollably, hogging resources, eating native species, or bringing new diseases. For instance, an invasive weed might choke out native plants that local insects depended on, setting off a chain reaction. When these stresses pile up, the ecosystem starts losing its pieces. Species begin disappearing. This isn't just losing one or two, it's losing many, especially key species that hold the whole system together. These are called keystone species. Think of them like the mayor, the power plant manager, or the head of the sanitation department. They have an outsized impact. If you lose a keystone predator, like we mentioned with wolves or sea otters, the entire food web can flip upside down. Without otters eating sea urchins, urchins explode in number and mow down entire kelp forests, turning a vibrant underwater jungle into a barren urchin barren. Losing a key pollinator, like a specific bee species for a particular plant, can doom that plant to extinction. Losing a major tree species that shapes the forest structure can change the whole microclimate and soil conditions, making it unsuitable for many other plants and animals that live there. As these key players vanish, the connections in the web snap faster. Now, the collapse itself often isn't a slow, gentle fade. It can be surprisingly sudden. Ecosystems can often absorb a lot of stress for a while, like a city coping under pressure. But there's a tipping point, a threshold, where one small additional push causes the whole system to rapidly shift into a completely different state. It's like piling more and more weight onto a shelf. It groans and bends, but holds, until that one final book makes it buckle and crash to the floor. Suddenly, the diverse, complex forest dominated by many tree species flips to a scrubland dominated by just a few hardy bushes or invasive grasses. A clear, fish-filled lake, overloaded with nutrients from farm runoff, eutrophication, can abruptly turn green, slimy, and oxygen-depleted, killing most fish and becoming dominated by algae and bacteria, a dead zone. A vibrant coral reef, stressed by warming and pollution, can rapidly bleach, lose its colorful, life-sustaining algae, and become overrun by slimy algae, turning into a ghostly, lifeless structure. This new state is often much simpler, less diverse, and less productive. It provides far fewer of the benefits the original ecosystem did. It's a degraded version of its former self. What does this collapsed state actually look like on the ground? Well, the signs are stark. Biodiversity plummets. Where there was once a rich tapestry of life, birds singing, insects buzzing, mammals roaming, fish swimming, there is now silence and emptiness. Many species disappear locally or go extinct entirely. The physical structure changes dramatically. A dense forest becomes open scrubland. A complex coral reef becomes a flat, algae-covered rubble field. A winding, dynamic river with marshes becomes a straight, deep drainage ditch. Essential functions break down. Nutrient cycling stalls. Dead stuff piles up or washes away instead of being recycled efficiently. Water purification fails. Pollutants aren't filtered out. Soil formation slows or reverses, leading to erosion. Climate regulation weakens. A deforested area absorbs less carbon and gets hotter. Resilience vanishes. The simplified ecosystem has lost its insurance policy. If a new stress hits, A disease, a fire, another drought, it has far fewer options to cope. It's much more vulnerable to flipping again or just withering away. But the impact doesn't stay contained within the ecosystem's boundaries. It ripples outwards, affecting everything connected to it, including humans. This is where it gets really personal. Think about clean water. Healthy forests and wetlands act like giant sponges and filters. When they collapse, this service fails. Rain rushes off the land instead of soaking in, causing devastating floods downstream. Then, when the rain stops, rivers dry up faster, leading to worse droughts. Without natural filtration, water becomes polluted. Food security takes a massive hit. Collapsed oceans mean fisheries collapse, no more fish on the dinner table. Collapsed pollinators mean reduced harvests for fruits, vegetables, nuts, and coffee. Degraded soil on collapsed farmland produces less food. Suddenly, feeding people becomes much harder and more expensive. Human health suffers. Loss of natural pest control, like birds eating insects, can lead to outbreaks of crop pests or disease-carrying insects like mosquitoes. Water pollution causes disease. The stress of losing natural spaces and the resources they provide impacts mental well-being. The loss of potential medicines from plants and animals we haven't even discovered yet is a silent crisis. Climate change accelerates. Healthy forests and oceans are massive carbon sinks. When they collapse, they stop absorbing carbon dioxide and can even start releasing stored carbon back into the atmosphere, making global warming worse. Coastal ecosystems like mangroves and coral reefs protect shorelines from storms. When they collapse, communities become far more vulnerable to flooding and erosion. It's also crucial to understand that ecosystem collapse isn't always final, but recovery is incredibly difficult and slow, often taking decades or centuries, if it happens at all. Once that tipping point is crossed and the system shifts to a degraded state, it can get stuck there. It's like that city after a massive disaster. Rebuilding to its former glory is a monumental task. The conditions might be so altered, soil ruined, climate changed, key species extinct, that the original ecosystem simply cannot reassemble itself. We might end up with a permanently impoverished landscape. Think about the Dust Bowl in the US in the 1930s. Poor farming practices collapsed the prairie grassland ecosystem, turning fertile land into eroding dust. It took massive effort and changed practices to start healing it, and it's still not the same vast, complex prairie it once was. Or consider the Aral Sea. Once a huge inland lake, collapsed primarily due to water diversion for irrigation. It shrank drastically, became hypersaline, and devastated fisheries and communities. Efforts are being made, but restoring it to its former state is likely impossible. So, why is this happening more now? Humans. Plain and simple. We are putting immense, unprecedented pressure on ecosystems all over the globe simultaneously. Our demand for land, for food, cities, resources, our overharvesting of resources, fish, timber, wildlife, our pollution, and our alteration of the global climate are pushing more and more ecosystems towards their breaking points. We are essentially dismantling the very life support systems we depend on. It's not just about losing beautiful animals or faraway forests. It's about undermining the foundations of human civilization, our food, water, health, climate stability, and security. The collapse of one ecosystem can also put pressure on neighboring ones, creating a domino effect. For example, if a forest collapses upstream, it can lead to the collapse of the river and wetland ecosystems downstream due to siltation, pollution, and altered water flow. But here's the crucial part. It's not inevitable, and we can change course. Understanding what causes collapse is the first step to preventing it. Protecting large, intact areas of wilderness through national parks and marine reserves is vital, giving ecosystems space to function naturally and maintain their resilience. But protection alone isn't enough. We need restoration, actively helping damaged ecosystems heal. This means replanting forests with the right mix of native species, restoring wetlands, rebuilding oyster reefs, removing invasive species, and cleaning up polluted rivers. It's like helping that devastated city rebuild its infrastructure. We also need to fundamentally change how we use the land and see outside protected areas. Sustainable agriculture and forestry practices are essential. Farming in ways that protect soil health, reduce chemicals, conserve water, and leave space for nature within the landscape, like hedgerows or patches of natural habitat. Fishing needs strict quotas and methods that avoid destroying habitats like the seabed. Fighting climate change is absolutely central to preventing ecosystem collapse. Reducing our greenhouse gas emissions rapidly and dramatically is non-negotiable. Many ecosystems are hitting their tipping points because of rising temperatures and changing weather patterns. Slowing climate change buys time for ecosystems to adapt. At the same time, we need to help ecosystems adapt where possible, protecting corridors so species can move to cooler areas as the climate warms, for instance. Combating pollution at its source is critical. Better waste treatment, reducing plastic use, stricter controls on industrial and agricultural runoff. Stopping the spread of invasive species through better biosecurity measures, like inspecting cargo and ballast water, is also key. And this isn't just a job for governments and scientists. Every single one of us has a role to play. The choices we make every day add up. We can reduce our own environmental footprint, consuming less stuff, especially products linked to deforestation, like unsustainably produced beef, palm oil, soy, timber, and paper. Look for certifications, choosing sustainable seafood, wasting less food, reducing energy use at home, opting for cleaner transportation, minimizing plastic use, and properly disposing of waste. We can support businesses that prioritize sustainability and put pressure on those that don't. We can vote for leaders who take environmental protection and climate action seriously. We can support conservation organizations working on the ground. And perhaps most importantly, we can connect with the nature around us, appreciate it, learn about it, and share that appreciation with others. When people value something, they fight to protect it. Seeing an ecosystem collapse is witnessing a profound tragedy, the unraveling of billions of years of evolution and intricate connections. It's the loss of unique forms of life, the silencing of complex natural symphonies, and the degradation of landscapes that sustained communities for generations. But beyond the ecological loss, it's a direct threat to our well-being, our economies, and our future. The collapse of ecosystems isn't some distant, abstract problem. It's happening now, and its consequences are washing up on our shores and appearing on our dinner plates. The good news is that we understand the causes, and we have the knowledge and tools to prevent further collapses and even heal some damaged systems. It requires urgent action, global cooperation, and a fundamental shift in how we view our relationship with the natural world, not as something separate to exploit, but as the irreplaceable foundation of our own existence. By protecting and restoring ecosystems, we are ultimately protecting and restoring our own future. It's a massive challenge, but it's perhaps the most important one we face. Thanks so much for taking the time to learn about this critical issue. Go out there, appreciate the nature around you, and let's all work together to keep our planet's incredible ecosystem strong and resilient. Take care, stay healthy, and I'll see you next time.